get to, I believe, the very beginning, as to how this beautiful vision was established and who founded it and the reasons behind it.
Okay. It's a long journey, a 60-year journey. I hope we have the whole morning. Um, so, yeah, iKamva Labantu means the future of the people.
Amen.
And that's really where it began. It wasn't always called iKamva Labantu. The name came later, the work came first.
Mm,
And maybe that's the way these things should happen.
yeah.
It began before this story begins, in that the community was doing the work. It was apartheid. We had a lack of resources. We had very difficult circumstances, and you had really predominantly the mamas and the gogos in the community who were holding the community together. They were the spine and the framework. They were doing things like if, one mama didn't have a pass card, she couldn't go to work. Another woman had a pass card, but she had children. She would leave her children with the woman who didn't have the pass card. And there was this community and collaboration. You had remarkable individuals overcoming some of the most challenging circumstances. And it's in that context that Helen arrived in Langa. She was 22 years old. She was a recently graduated speech therapist who was working at Grooteskier Hospital. She had been given the ward with the Swartes, and this is a very separate area. And she was passionate about what she was doing. And a young boy had been discharged early, prematurely. And so she followed him into Langa to find him. A lot of information was in silos at that time. And so Helen had really not seen township life. She hadn't been exposed to it. And what she saw really shifted her. She wasn't aware of what was happening. And when she saw what was happening, I think that this is the key to the story of iKamva Labantu. When she saw what was happening, she couldn't walk away.
Mm,
And I think that that's the key to the story. You have a young girl who was no one. Today, Helen has awards, she's honorary this and a doctorate in this, and she's become someone. But
mm,
at that time, when she walked into Langa, she was no one. She was just a young girl who saw remarkable people doing work, and she wanted to be part of that.
mm, mm,
And so she then stayed. And a lot of what she was doing was having a look and talking predominantly with the woman around what were the needs, where were their needs, how could she facilitate that? And so she was really looking at joining and facilitating what was already happening. And that heart has continued for 60 years. It is a community-led organization led by community leaders, addressing local needs with tailored, relevant local solutions.
mm,
And there's a lot of dialogue. It sometimes can get frustrating with people who are used to working in nonprofits where you parachute in the professionals and they come with the solutions and it's all very quick. The work can be slower, but over 60 years, working alongside community members, we have created a program that is focusing now today on really two main areas: the youngest and the oldest. And these are sort of the bookends of our society. They also the groups that are probably most affected by what happens in the middle. So in our country at the moment, we have quite a lot of challenges, a lot of dis-ease, and struggles around things like criminality, gangsterism, drug addiction. And it's really the children on the one end and the elders on the other hand who
mm,
are really receiving the burden
mm,
of what that means. And so those are our focus areas. Um, yeah, I think let me leave space for you to ask me questions. I can carry on
mm,
and on. It's an incredible story. And what motivates me most, and I think this is the message I want to share today, is that the future of the people is the heart of it. And it's that we're brothers and sisters. And I don't just mean as a nationhood, I mean that we are God's children. We're all
amen.
part of one body. We
Mm,
share a future. We are a living, breathing body that is heading in a direction, and we all need to pull together for
mm,
where that is going. And so that's really the heart of it.
mm. I love it a lot, and I love the approach, the intergenerational community approach that you have established. So I would love for you to just expand on it in terms of it not just being a nice idea, but being a truly effective reality for those that have been displaced, those that are underserved in the communities. How is it
Mm.
a truly effective reality for them?
Okay, so let's look at each group. We start maybe with the elders, actually.
Mm,
So with our elders in our community, we focus predominantly on the areas like Kailicha, Philippi, etc., Langa. And we're working there because there isn't a lot of help coming to our elders. I think that there is a fair amount of focus on ECD and young children, but our elders get forgotten. And these are the individuals who've really fought, struggled
mm,
for liberation in our country. They've struggled for a future, to build a future where everyone can share in the benefits of the country, and they are forgotten about at the end of this. They live in communities where you have very tight houses and shacks. I'm giving a description for those who may not have spent a lot of time in the township, so
mm,
please forgive me if this sounds obvious, but you've got very closely aligned houses where you have limited resources. Even if you have got a brick and mortar house, if you're fortunate enough to have one, you may not have a working toilet in that structure. You are in streets which are very hard sometimes to navigate. It's areas where sometimes ambulances don't want to go into. They are
mm,
afraid of going into them. There's high crime, a lot of risk, a lot of stress, a lot of addiction, a lot of need and real struggle. And so in that context, you have elders who, they may not be very mobile. And so it's not like living in the burbs where
mm,
you can access services, you can go to your doctor easily, hop in your car, go to the GP. You have elders who are living in very isolated spaces, who have very strong health concerns. They may be struggling to even go to the toilet. These are individuals who, are struggling to move around with ease. And so for them at nighttime, if there isn't a working bathroom, it's not an option to go down to the communal bathrooms. That can't be done for them.
mm.
And so I'm painting the picture of what it's like to be
Yeah.
someone who's older and frailer at that point in their life with limited services available to them. If they have a stroke, they can't walk, there may not be family members who can care for them. So that's the context that we are working within. And what we have got in place is 17 senior clubs.
Mm-hmm.
This is for elders who are mobile enough. So we have vehicles that travel around in the morning and everyone gets collected. There's lots of laughter. People are bustled into the taxis. They arrive at the senior centers. It's one of my favorite places to go because there's always a bustle and a hubbub. And sometimes someone breaks into song. And there's just a lot of people come to those spaces because they're looking for that camaraderie, the warmth, the conversation, really good meals. So there's two nutritious meals. A lot of people come because of those meals.
Mm,
Um, our elders are living on very small pensions and they get stretched thin because very often our elders are also looking after extended family members.
yeah.
38% of our children in our nation are raised by grandparents.
Mm,
So your very, very small pension is stretched very thin. And so they're coming in for the resources and the community and activities to keep them alive and young. There's health care for them there so they can access things like dentures, cataract removal. So those are the clubs. And these are community-led clubs. Our seniors are involved in the running of them. They have a voice, and we really want them to have a voice. We want them to know their rights and to be able to speak because they have wisdom to share with our community, and we need to give them a voice. And then on the other side, we have homebound elders who just are not able to move. And I think this is the incredible part of iKamva Labantu. We have something called the Umulwani, which is the friendly neighbor.
mm,
And the Umulwani are community-based workers. They train. So these are individuals who would otherwise be unemployed. It's bringing income into the community. And they work alongside our professional team of OT and nurses. And they are our front line for homebound elders. They go and they find community members who are not able to get out. They put in place a rehabilitation program for them. If we can get them mobile again and coming into the clubs, that's ideal. If not, they find a caregiver for them in the community, either a family member or a neighbor, access a grant. There's a small grant that's accessible for someone who's caring for an elder, and
Mm,
then provide supports and safeguards. And that's essential because we've also last year published a study around abuse of elders in our Cape Town townships. It is rife,
mm,
predominantly financial, so taking our elders' pensions away from them,
sure.
financial abuse, but there is also all sorts of other abuse, including sexual abuse. And then, of course, neglect. And so
Mm,
our team is really a safeguard. There aren't a lot of people watching out for our elders, and we act as a third party who's watching and who's aware.
I
That's
like
our elder.
that. A third party that's watching and aware. Now, beyond
Yeah.
the immediate care, what would you say is what is the deeper long-term impact that you see when you intentionally nurture both the youngest as well as the oldest generation, and you do this simultaneously? How does this create a different kind of a preferred future within the community as a whole?
Yeah. Well, the word there is future, right? That is really what we are looking to build. And what you have is a collective future.
Mm,
So you have the intergenerational dynamics are really important. You have family members who understand and value the importance of the elders, the wisdom that they bring.
mm,
The elders then are stronger and better able to share and to help nurture the younger generations.
mhm,
The younger generations are able to see where they are one day heading to, is able to build towards that and knowing that there's going to be struggles and that they must put in place the building blocks. I didn't talk about our ECD program, but on the other end, you're creating good foundations. And so in Kailicha, we have a center called Kwakanya, and it is really an ECD training hub. We train ECD teachers and ECD principals. And it's looking for the most effective, scalable way to create early learning support for our
mm,
children, especially the children who need it most. So these are the kids whose parents have to go off for work and travel long distances to get to their place of work. They get left behind. And if they're lucky, get into a childcare space where there is an ECD program in place. Otherwise, it's really glorified babysitting, maybe a meal if they're lucky, but none of the development, none of the things that help the brain to start firing and getting excited and curious and interested about things and life and building those building blocks. The first 5 years of a child's life are critical
mm,
and can shift a child's entire learning, health, self future. So you really need to get in early with the first 5 years to have a good, effective learning program and a learning environment in place. And so creating those foundations, we train up to 60 teachers every year and around 30 principals every year. These are setting up good, accessible ECD centers within the areas that need it most. There's a huge need for effective ECD education in our townships
mm,
that are easily accessible that kids can get to in those communities. And so you're building blocks where you're creating children who are robust, who are resilient, who have a sense
mm,
of the world around them, have a sense of themselves, have a sense of their ownership of their own futures. And then together, these two bookends, they really work to create, they're either the most vulnerable or also our most strong parts of our
mm,
communities. And when you have those two bookends, robust and stable, now you have the foundations for a strong future. And those children, they grow up and they become future leaders. They become future entrepreneurs. And so we need to be considering both ends at all time, and that's how we build a robust future
mm.
for our nation.
Mm. So, so excellent. So, for someone that's listening who is really inspired by this vision, what is the ultimate future for that you are building towards in these communities? I know that you've, alluded to them here and there, but just to
Mhm.
once again, to um, highlight once again that this is what we're building, and support us, come alongside us as we do this.
Well, your word was, what is the ultimate future that we're building in these communities? And I think that's quite an important sentence because what we're building at iKamva Labantu is a shared future. I think in South Africa, there is so much separation still. We've come a long way. We've come through an incredible journey. There's a long way still to go. There's a
Mm,
lot of division in our nation. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of that's the other, this is us, this is them. And so I think what we're building to in South Africa is a movement where we start to come together. We start to realize that our future is shared. You may be in Sea Point, you may be in Khayelitsha. You share a future. You may not realize that. You share a
Mm,
future. And so, what we're looking to do is to create that movement where we cross the bridge and we realize that we need to pull together. We need to start reducing this gap between our wealth and the majority of our nation, which is really struggling and living. 50% of our nation is living below the breadline. If we can uplift and sort of meet each other in the middle, you start to see a drop in all sorts of other social ills. So you will see a drop in crime, you will see a drop in gangsterism, you'll see a drop in drug addiction. It's really about trying to build a healthy nation and future where we come together and we don't see ourselves as separate anymore.
mm.
We share, we're brothers and sisters. We share a future.
Definitely. I love that a lot. The sharing of a future and not allowing, the things that, of the past to shape us now, to create a better,
Mhm.
preferred future for all. Now,
Right.
where can we reach iKamva Labantu? And for those that want to volunteer, what is the process of
Mm.
volunteering and where can we go on social media? So please share your social media handles.
Sure. So you can find us first on our website, and from our website, you can see all the social media handles if you haven't got a pen and you're not a fast writer. So our website is very easy to remember. It's ikamva.org.za. So ikamva.org.za. And so if you go to ikamva.org.za, you'll be able to see our Instagram, our Facebook, our LinkedIn handles. And just drop us a message. You click on contact us and drop us a message. Anything that you want to do, any questions you have. The important thing here is dialogue and conversation. So if you have ideas for volunteering, drop us a message. We'd love to hear it. But what we are starting to focus on quite heavily is because we're supporting all these ECD centers, a really nice way to volunteer is to help with things like creating educational toys. If you've got a
Mm,
team and some funds to buy some paints, etc., and some equipment, we can go
mm.
and work to upgrade some of the ECD centers so that the kids are in a beautiful, effective learning environment. So there's ways that you can volunteer. And then as we come into this Christmas giving season, if you're looking for a gift, the best gifts do not come wrapped. The best
Mm,
gift create lasting change. And so if you are
mm,
considering making a gift, consider giving a gift to a child and creating a future for them.
mm,
That's our
mm.
call this season is to build futures and give the gift of a future. And you can do that again through ikamva.org.za.
Excellent. Family, it is possible to make a change in our
Mhm.
community of Cape Town. We can't just throw in the towel and say, well, that is it. It's the lost generation, or there's nothing I can do. Maybe, like you made an example, Rowan, that I live in a lush suburb somewhere, and so it's not my problem, but it is our problem because we have a shared future. So
Right.
thank you so much, family. We have been speaking to Rowan Rivera Bauer, and she is the head of fundraising and communications at iKamva Labantu. She has already shared where you can get her details. So, Rowan, thank you so much for that. It has been indeed very educational and informative.
Thank you, ma'am. I greatly enjoyed speaking with you.
Thank